Welcome to Oddball. I'm Amin Elhassan. That's Izzy Gutierrez. We're in Miami. I wasn't in Miami last night, Izzy.
You are everywhere, man.
I was in San Francisco, California. Left my heart in San Francisco, sitting on the dock of the bay. All the San Francisco, would you let me ride San Fran? All the San Francisco references because it was at Warriors Grizzlies where the Warriors.
San Francisco, where's your disco?
Okay, don't know that one.
Oh, it's a good song. Listen to it.
Warriors beat the Grizzlies 121-116 and secure the 7th seed. Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry put up massive performances. It was crazy because Jimmy Butler carried this team throughout much of the game where I felt like Steph Curry wasn't playing well. And then towards the end, I was like, Jimmy Butler doesn't seem wanting to shoot. And Steph Curry said, don't worry, I got this. So Jimmy ended with 38-7-6. And
you were there, though.
Yeah.
That's wild to me that you were there and you're here now. But I'm curious, did you get the same feel that I did early on in the game, that the Warriors didn't really separate themselves much? Like, I've had confidence about the Warriors leading into the playoffs since the Jimmy Butler trade and what they can do. But what I've noticed recently is what they cannot do. And, you know, I worry about the size. I worry about the rotation not being as skilled as it needs to be and relying too much on Jimmy and Steph because they got great games from the two of them and squeaked out a home win.
They squeaked it out. They led big early. Memphis chipped away, had a really rough second half. And then down the stretch, you got the greatest closer in the game in Steph Curry. He did that thing where it's like, hey, 1 second you're like, we're in this game, and the next you're like, oh no, we have no chance because Steph Curry is going to do Steph Curry things. Now, I think that's a fair assessment of like, do they have enough outside of those two guys to consistently, and that's the thing. It's like, it seems like this team, and talking to people who covered the team or were there last night, even at halftime, they're like, they're going to give it back up. That's the feeling about this
That
Warriors.
was the feeling about the Prime Warriors. They'll slip up. We'll find a way to get back in the game.
The Prime Warriors thing was,
they'll get bored.
I'll never forget it was you could play perfect basketball for 45 minutes. Perfect basketball. And the Warriors can mess everything up. And in the last 3 minutes, they're going to play so well, it'll erase all the perfect basketball you played over the first 45 minutes. Like that was, with the Warriors, it was just a matter of time before like, all right, enough playing around. This team is different. I feel like, hey, when things are clicking, they're really tough to beat. But the moment there are any snags in that, whether the offense becomes stagnant, whether their lack of size becomes an issue, as it did last night, then you run into trouble and you realize, oh man, they really struggle scoring at the rim, at the paint, consistently, right? And if Jimmy Butler isn't looking aggressive, as there were moments last night where we're like, what are you doing? Including a huge turnover towards the end of the game. It was like, just put it up. The clock is running out. Who cares if you get blocked? Jimmy. He just throws it back up court, and that leads to a fast break for Memphis. Similarly, there was a play where Gary Payton II is saving the ball in front of the bench, and he tosses it literally back up court, leading to another Memphis fast break. There's just these little moments where you realize, and in bitter twists of irony, much like the Miami Heat of a couple years ago, the Warriors going to have to play perfect basketball, smart basketball. They don't have a margin of error to mess around a whole lot.
And they showed us that yesterday because it was the two of them playing pretty much their best. And when they're doing that, you would think that they should be able to run away with this game, but they didn't. No. And you almost have to have, like early on, Quentin Post hitting those threes, which aren't easy shots, right? They're difficult shots for any quality three-point shooter, but he was hitting them like he was Klay Thompson out there. And you need for Jimmy to get the calls, to make those ones that, you know, that he's going aggressively. Like there was this one where he had an up and under, and that one was just like such a tricky shot. And you almost never used to see him even attempt those here in Miami. He would always just, if it's double clutch, I got to get it out of here. But it feels like he knows if Steph's not doing it, I have to do it.
Like, Gary Payton II hit a couple of threes early, and that made a huge difference. Him and Moses Moody and Guy Santos, who only played like 6 minutes, had massive offensive rebounds. Like there are plays you can look back and say, oh man, like that could have been the beginning of an avalanche in the wrong direction if not for these timely shots made or rebounds grabbed or 50-50 balls won. But at the end of it, it's kind of like, oh yeah, but they have Steph Curry. And, you know, I think about two plays. There's one play where the classic, They ran pick and roll with Jimmy and Steph. Steph throws the ball to Draymond, and everyone's like, oh, I'm talking about everybody in media row. I'm sitting next to Nate Duncan, and Nate Duncan's grabbing my arm. He's like, you know what's about to happen. And literally it's just Draymond grabs it and then pitches it right back to Steph in the corner. 3-pointer made. Boom. And then the next one where he up fakes Scottie Pippen Jr., who, bless his heart, he did a great job for, again, 45, 46 minutes. Right. And then Steph at the end was just like, yeah, I'm Steph Curry. And he hits that three, and he walks down court slowly towards the camera on the baseline, even though his bench is back that way. And I was like, see, that's why it doesn't matter, Izzy, right? Like, we could sit here like, oh my God, they don't have enough. And it's like, they have enough for him to do that at the end.
And the whole time, he's wearing a protective thing on his thumb. Mm-hmm. Like, not the first couple of shots that he missed, I was like, wow, is his thumb really bothering him? It's been a couple of games now, but it seems like it's not even there toward the end. It seems like he can do anything, but they kind of need him to be that person, right? Because as we can see with the Jonathan Kuminga essentially benching, he's not in the rotation. This team has been figuring it out on the fly the whole time. They know they have two things, Steph and Draymond. That's it. Now they know they have Jimmy Butler, but they're literally figuring it out on the fly and adjusting their rotation as the playoffs start.
You know, Steve Kerr was talking about the mentality of having Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. And he said, these guys they're winners. They're killers, man. Like, they've been here before. And they was asked, what do you see, having played Steve Kerr with Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan and all these great players, and then obviously coached Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, what does those, you know, fourth quarter killers have in common with Jimmy Butler? He said the fearlessness. Not the fearlessness like that, hey, everything's perfect, but like that, I'm not afraid of this moment. And so you see it in Steph, you see it in Jimmy, so you see it in Draymond and Kevon Looney in a different way, though. Like he said, like, and Gary Payton II, he name-checked them as guys who had that fearlessness of the moment. And I won't lie, man, it sounds like mumbo-jumbo, touchy-feely stuff, but man, I look at Memphis, I look at Zach Edey in some of those situations, I look at pretty much everyone not named Desmond Bane, John Morant, or ironically Scottie Pippen Jr. Everyone else had their moments where they looked like they didn't want to be out there or they didn't want anything to do with these moments.
So you're saying Kuminga might be in that category?
No, I think when it comes to Kuminga, it's something different. And it seems to me that Kuminga not playing is a witch's brew of a lot of different factors. Number one, his best position is at the 4, and they kind of have a glut at the 4 with Jimmy and Draymond. Because of Jimmy and Draymond, you can't play Kuminga out there as well because he's a non-shooter as well. So now you've automatically shortened his opportunities considerably through those first 2 points. And then there's a little bit concern of like, is he as up to speed of the feel of the way the Warriors want to play as some of the other guys who are less talented, perhaps Gary Payton, Brandon Podziemski, Quentin Post, different players, different positions, but all taking minute opportunities away from Kuminga because they know how to play in a way that he's still kind of developing. And for a team that's competing for a championship, especially with that coach, not have the luxury to give him the opportunity to learn that on the job.
Well, you look at the people replacing him, right? It's Gary Payton II, who is a special defensive player. Like, he gives it to you every possession out there, and that you know you're going to get, right? You got Guy Santos, or as I like to call him, Anderson Varejao. He'll give you the hustle, right? He actually plays and moves like Anderson Varejao. And he's going after the offensive rebound. What do you know you're going to get from Kuminga every night? I don't know. You might maybe run the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe a few shots.
He's the best athlete on the roster. So
do something with it.
Again. But I feel for him in both ways. Like, on the one hand, do something with it. But like, you know what your team needs. Do those things. On the other hand, it's the worst situation in the world to be learning on the job, is playing A, for a championship level team, but B, for that championship level team.
But he's done it.
Yeah, but again, in smaller doses, right? And when we're talking about at the championship level, right? We're not talking about last year or the year before. We're talking about when they won a championship. It was smaller doses, right? And behind guys like Bjelica and Otto Porter. And like, these were guys that were doing it and getting more minutes and more opportunities because they knew what they were doing. Moses Moody, who was in the same boat as him a couple of years ago, has developed, has figured it out. Now he's a starter.
Has settled into his role.
He's figured out his role and knows what and he does it at a high level, which is defend and make threes. And I think honestly, if Kuminga were a better shooter, they might give him a little bit more leeway to do all that other learning on the job. But the fact that he's a non-shooter, and again, Draymond's non-shooter and Jimmy's a non-shooter, it's just almost impossible. And now you're saying, okay, well, I can play him when they're not on the floor.
Yep.
What are we talking about now?
And Steve Kerr didn't actually comment on Kuminga afterward, which could be protecting him. Maybe he just doesn't want to say negative things about him. But to me, it feels like, because Steve's better than that, right? He's well-trained. He knows how to talk around situations. To me, it seems like it's just a situation where Kuminga will not settle into his role, thinks he should or could be doing more. And there isn't, like I said, the one thing that you know you're going to get from him every single night.
That's the other part of it that hasn't been spoken about. He's a restricted free agent, right? He's playing for a new contract. And if he were an unrestricted free agent, he'd just say, man, I can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gone. But because he's restricted, now it's like, oh, I got to give someone out there a reason to want to bid for my services at a high enough level where Golden State won't want to match. And so when you are under those kind of pressures and circumstances, Izzy, do you think when you walk in the game, you're saying, okay, how can I set these off-ball screens and help the helper and all that? No, you're thinking about, man, I need to get my value up. This is infomercial time. And obviously that runs contrary to kind of what the Warriors want to do and how they want to play.
I think you could tell during the trade deadline that there wasn't that much interest in Jonathan Kuminga, I would argue. But I do think that, here, look, the Warriors did it with Andrew Wiggins. Mm-hmm. They can do it with Jimmy Butler. They just need the other pieces to fit in where they need to fit in. Like, people talk about Steve Kerr like he's a limited head coach because he only knows one way. I don't care if that's the case. He's won 4 championships that way. So just do it.
It's a pretty good way. Yeah, one last thing about Kuminga I'll say is, you brought up Wiggins. If you remember that championship run, that first round, Wiggins was almost non-existent. Then they played Dallas, and he was perhaps their most important player in that series. And so there is a chance, I think, for Kuminga in this first round against Houston with all those athletes, the Jalen Greens and the Amin Thompsons and all that, for him to make a mark for himself in that series.
In fact, that's what they're missing. He's not quite 7 feet, but they're missing that vertical element, the JaVale McGee that was so good for them for 2 years, who started entire playoff series for them at times. Like, if he can do that, then that could be the one thing and that's something that they desperately need. So it's something that would be of value, but it seems like that's just not the road we're going. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the Grizzlies here. You mentioned Zach Edey. Why? He had a double-double, 14 and 17. The Grizzlies are doing the thing where they're just being stubborn and say, we're going to play big, and it doesn't matter how this is going to turn out for you or who you play. We're going to do this. And they seem to work the boards pretty well. Is that enough? Is their size enough to save the Grizzlies? Are they going to make a run because they're sticking to their
I'm going to tell you right now, here? Zach Edey did a great job on the boards. The Warriors attacked that.
Yeah.
They attack the Grizzlies. I don't know why. Their game plan was they're going to put him on Jimmy Butler. And like, beyond just the size and the physical differences, all that, rookie versus one of the craftiest guys, it was unconscionable. This is abuse that you're doing. By putting this kid out there. His head was spinning around. Guys are cutting, and now he's closing out to Jimmy Butler. He had no idea where he was. To me, I know people are going to look at the box score, and they may not even look at the plus minus and be like, oh, no, he had a good game. I'm like, I don't think so. And by the way, that's not even to mention all the missed opportunities around the rim. Yeah, Quentin Post one-on-one on the block. And I said, that's the difference. That's the difference in college basketball and the NBA. A year ago, this guy was player of the year. And now he can't even score one-on-one over a guy none of y'all heard of 6 months ago.
Yeah, and that's the difference between getting the call in college because, he missed a dunk, it must be a foul, versus the NBA where it's like, I didn't see a foul. Did you see a foul?
I mean, it's tough. Having said that, the bigger thing for me about the Grizzlies moving forward, they should beat the winner of Mavs Kings. But the question I have is, Ja Morant, how bad is that ankle? Because they had the foul. It was a rescinded flagrant foul. He shoots the free throws, and then he went back to the locker room and had to get retaped.
Right.
And he came back, and he had some big plays and big moments, but you could tell he was moving gingerly on that ankle. And the big thing about last night, I know the Warriors talked about it, Steve Kerr talked about it specifically, is we need to win this one because we want the rest.
Right.
We don't want to keep playing until Friday and then have to play game 1 on Sunday.
Well, let's think about this when it comes to Memphis. Are they better off not even getting into the playoff? Because we all obviously have this scramble over there. They don't have, they're playing with an interim head coach. Maybe he'll be the full-time head coach. We don't know. There doesn't seem to be a path, right, to a championship or even a finals appearance. They get to keep their first round pick this season if it's in the lottery. It's lottery protected. They might be better off just saying, hey, made a good run. Sorry we lost in the play-in. Add a lottery talent. Go from there. And it would be, you would think, another reason for Ja Morant to say, okay, we got another talented player here because it's supposed to be a top-heavy draft.
Yeah, if Memphis does not make the playoffs, it's a top 14 pick, right? Mm-hmm. And that 14 pick, it would be the 14th pick for them. They have the best
Unless
record.
They win the lottery.
They have the best record of all the teams in the lottery. Should they, lose in this next play-in game, that means they're going to get the 14th pick because you're talking about a fraction of a percent chance to move up to 1, right? So in that essence, 0.5% chance of going to the number 1 overall pick, 2.4% chance of moving up for the top 4. So it's basically a 97.6% chance it will be 14 if it's them. So that pick, if it doesn't convey this year, it basically turns into a second-round pick, the more favorable of a couple second-round picks they have in 2026. So I think that's a reason why you want to, to me, I'd rather just play and be as good as I possibly am because I know how good my team is and not worry about conveying that pick because otherwise, what am I doing? I'm doing this for the 14th pick. I know everyone's like, oh, you have a chance. But we're talking about a 2.5%, less than a 2.5% chance of moving in the top 4.
All right. So the other game of the night was Hawks and Magic. The Magic won 120-95, kind of running away with it late in that one. How do you think the Magic match up with the Celtics now in that 2-7 matchup?
Well, I mean, the Celtics are a better team. The Celtics are the team that we expect to win. But it's definitely, if I'm Brad Stevens, if I'm Joe Mazzulla, I'm like, it had to be these guys. Atlanta, it would have been nice up and down series of play and get our shots up. Everyone shoots their threes, and then we end up winning probably in 5. Against Orlando, man, it's a fight. It's a rock fight. They play ugly. Big. They slow it down. They're big. They're tough defensively. And so that flow, which Boston likes to have, it's kind of similar to what's happening in Golden State and Houston, although it's flip-flop 2-7.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's like, these guys are going to make this into an ugly rock fight, and all I want to do is play pretty fast-paced basketball.
Well, it's great. You said something the other day about three-point defense. It's not about the percentage that you allow. It's about the amount of threes you allow. Orlando is best at both of those. Yep. And so, the Celtics shoot a lot of threes, so it's going to be a clash of styles to see which person or which team ends up on top there. I think the Celtics will win. I'm not going to predict an upset, but I'm telling you, this thing's going to go like 6, maybe 7.
Yeah, I could see that. Now, here's a question posed to us by our producer, Gabe. If the Magic can't beat the Celtics, can they at least tenderize them enough to make life easier for any other contenders?
I don't really know what that means because you don't unless you're talking about injuries, right? But if you just had one tough series, you're going to have a day off. You're going to have the ability to recover and you can go ahead and start anew. I don't think that really carries over from one series to the next. If anything, they would feel a freedom by not having to play as physical of a team the next round.
Yeah, and likely it's going to be the Knicks, right? In the next round, unless the Pistons pull off the unthinkable and have.
Well, I've thought about it, so it's not unthinkable.
Okay, all right, there it is. All right, we come back. We're going to do headlines because Nico Harrison spoke to the media. It went well. All right, welcome back to Oddball. It's time to play headlines. Headlines, this is the game where, there it is.
It's important music.
It is. It lets people know the headlines are starting. Izzy now will take you through some headlines and give you some pithy observations about it. Headlines is presented by Remy Martin 1738 Accord Royal. Exceptionally smooth cognac for all your game day festivities. Please drink responsibly. Love this box. All right, Izzy, get us started.
All right. Trae Young, he was ejected from the first play-in game this week for, quote, making a mockery of the game. Asked for a response, James Harden said, what? They can eject you for that?
So did Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma and a bunch of other Wizards. All right. Next headline, Nico Harrison, GM of the Dallas Mavericks. They try to have a media availability, but they ask the media not to bring any recording devices, no cameras, no microphones, which by my note is the first time in NBA history, Izzy, we ever had a GM say, hey, media, I want to tell you something. but don't tell anybody else.
It's a secret meeting. I don't think you do that with the media there. All right, my turn here. ESPN provocateur, former Thunder big man and NBA award voter, I don't know why, Kendrick Perkins made news this week when he posted that his Defensive Player of the Year winner is Lou Dort. I'm trying to dig for confirmation, but I believe he only picked Lou Dort because it was the easiest name to say.
And he still spelled it wrong.
And he still did it wrong.
He spelled it Lug Dort.
It should have been Moses Moody. Have fun with that one, Kendrick.
All right, next headline. Down in Phoenix, fired Suns head coach Mike Budenholzer allegedly asked Bradley Beal to play more like Drew Holiday, according to reports, which is like me asking Remy Martin to be more like chocolate milk. Like, they're just completely different things. All right, that's going to do it for this week's headlines. Let's play Prop a Slot.
All right. You guys know Prop a Slot, right?
Yeah.
Presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I don't know why I said you guys because it's just you, Amin. No. But you know the rules. It's a slot machine. It generates actual lines from DraftKings. And if we don't pick any of the top three, then we have to take a parlay of the opposite of all three. So let's see what we got with the
first one. Here we go. Spin me round, right, round. Well,
there's only 2 games, right? It's the 2 9-10 play-in
It's like
games.
The worst play-in games, right?
Sometimes they end up being the best.
Yesterday was the best. Today is not so much.
We got Anthony Davis over 11.5 rebounds. That's minus 120 right now on DraftKings. He averaged 11.6 rebounds for the season, 14.5 against the Kings, though. On the other side is Sabonis.
Yeah.
Who led the league with 14.5 rebounds, 14.5 rebounds per game this season. I don't love it because it's hard to predict, A, that there'll be a lot of rebounds to go around, and you already know Sabonis is going to gather up a bunch of them. I don't love
He's not going to grab 40 rebounds, though. Like, there are going to be enough rebounds for Anthony Davis to grab them. I don't like this because I'm not confident he's going to be healthy throughout the entire game. That's where I'm at with Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
I feel it in my bones, I
feel it in my groin.
In my patellar tendon.
Is where he probably feels it. So let's go to the next one.
All right. What do we got? Spin me.
Go ahead and gonna guess it's from the Miami Heat Chicago Bulls.
Yeah. What do we got?
Hey, look at that. It's Kobe White over 2.5 threes. That's minus 130. A tradition unlike any other. Yes. The Bulls and the Heat in the play-in.
Every year.
I love Kobe White's game recently. He has, like you said in a show previously, has sort of taken a leap.
Yeah.
And it's not just from 3, though. He's scoring all over the floor, basically, a 3-level scorer. 2.5 is a lot. I mean, to make 3 threes.
He's averaging about 3 made threes a game this year. And that's for the whole year. He's been a lot better since the All-Star break. I don't know, man. I kind of like this one. But you know what kills me? The curiosity. The curiosity. That's the problem with this game. I'm so curious. What's the third one?
All right, screw it. We're skipping
it. All right, let's spin it. Spin it.
Will curiosity kill us, or will it make us a little bit richer?
What do we got here?
Okay, it's Josh Giddey.
Kobe White's teammate.
Under 9.5 assists. Wow, I don't love unders, but he's averaged 7.2 assists for the season. Wow, and he's missed 3 of Chicago's last 4 with an injury. This doesn't sound like a guy who's setting up to sort of take over this game and really distribute for 10 assists. I kind of like this one.
I like it, but since I like it and I like Kobe White, 3 made threes, and I like Anthony Davis grabbing all them rebounds, I kind of feel like let's parlay this whole thing. Oh, no, we parlay the opposite.
Oh, no. So you got to stick with Josh Giddey here.
Sticking with Giddey then.
So we're not predicting he's going to do much, but what are the Bulls going to do in general? Like, this feels like a Miami Heat type of game, but I also feel like the Bulls just score too easily. Like, Herder's going to have 25, and the Heat's going to be like, I don't know what to do with that.
Every year we've seen Bulls Heat in the play-in. I see the Bulls. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And the Heat are like, you guys have been underachieving, but this is your time to get it started. This is the first time where I feel like it's the opposite.
Yeah.
The Heat are like, what are you doing? And the Bulls, I'm like, all right, guys, time to start like showing everyone you're actually better than what your record was.
And the crazy thing about the Heat is like they've been all over the place health-wise. Andrew Wiggins has been in and out since he's gotten there. It seems like they're pretty much healthy now, but they have no chemistry.
They lost to the Wizards on the last game.
They can't put together any stretches of good basketball because the chemistry is just not there yet. And if you're asking Andrew Wiggins to be the assertive, go get me 30 points, I mean, good luck. You might get it, you might not.
By the way, Bulls 3-0 versus the Heat this season.
You know what other year they were 3-0 versus the Heat?
What's that?
2010-11 when the Heat ended up winning in 5 games in the playoffs. Oh, but they had LeBron James.
LeBron James ain't walking through that door. Dwayne Wade's not walking through that door. Oddball's not walking through that door.
Carlos Arroyo.